How's it going, guys? So, there's an interesting fight coming up at 154. Demetrius Andrade is going to be fighting WBA interim champion Jack Culcay for the full WBA world title. Now, this is a very interesting fight, very good fight. However, I do have a definite preference of who I think is going to win. Now, let's talk about both guys. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jack Culcay is, because in America, I believe he's a little bit less known than Andrade. Basically, Jack Culcay is a 31-year-old fighter from Ecuador, and he's based in Germany. He's fought the majority of his career in Germany. I've watched him live many times. I've watched him on quite a few cards live over in Germany. The first time I saw Jack Culcay fight live, it was when he fought a guy called Mark Thompson. And I remember watching the fight, and Jack Culcay was actually having a lot of problems in the fight. Thompson was really roughing him up in there and giving him a hard fight. However, I believe it was the 5th round, if I remember rightly, Jack Culcay managed to get him stunned and hurt him really badly, and then just really laid into him, and then the referee stopped the fight. The announcers, the British commentators at least, criticised the stoppage. Personally, I didn't really have a problem with the stoppage. I thought that Mark Thompson was clearly out on his feet, and I didn't really see him coming back, but I could see why some people would question the stoppage. But anyway, he got the win. I've seen the majority, not all of his fights since, but the majority of his fights since. I've streamed them. And, he's an entertaining fighter. He's a good fighter. Now, he did lose a fight by split decision to a guy called Guido Pito. I'm not 100% sure how you pronounce that dude's name. I didn't actually catch that fight. However, he did have a rematch immediately, and he won the fight handily in the rematch. That first defeat was the only blemish on Jack Culcay's record. And since then, he's pretty much dominated every fight that he's been in. The most noteworthy opponents that he's fought, well, in my opinion, the best opponent that he's fought is Dennis Hogan, who's a very tough Australian contender. Now, he was undefeated going into that fight. I believe he was 22-0 and had only had one draw. And I was very impressed with Jack Culcay when I saw that fight. I actually thought that was one of the best performances of Jack Culcay's career. He boxed very well in that fight. He has that kind of typical high guard Eastern European type style. However, he mixes it up a little bit, Jack Culcay. He's actually got pretty good head movement. Seems to have decent timing. He's a little bit less robotic than some fighters you see over in Germany. And, I think he is a very decent fighter. Certainly a very interesting addition to that division. Now, he's going up against Demetrius Andrade. For those of you who haven't really watched much of Demetrius Andrade, I'm sure most of you probably have, but for those of you who haven't, he's a very, very good fighter, Demetrius Andrade. In my opinion, and a lot of people don't share this opinion, certainly one or two Erislandy Lara supporters don't share this opinion, but in my opinion, Demetrius Andrade is perhaps the best fighter in the 154-pound division. I think he does certain things better than Canelo does. And, personally, I just think that, to me, Demetrius Andrade, he mixes it up very well. He's one of these guys who he can not only box, but he can also do different things. Like, he can stand in the pocket, he can fight inside, he can shorten up his punches. And, he's just a very, very, complex fighter. He does a lot of things very well in the ring, and I'm very impressed by what I see from Demetrius Andrade. I mean, his last performance against Willie Nelson was very impressive. And now it has to be said, Willie Nelson, not an elite fighter, but nonetheless, he's a big, tall, awkward, tough, and experienced opponent. And I felt that Demetrius Andrade looked absolutely fantastic in that fight. I mean, his boxing skill, his stamina, his defense, his hand speed, everything to me was just on point in that fight, and I was very impressed with him. I was very impressed with Andrade in that fight, and to be honest, guys, I think in this fight it's going to come down to one thing. If Andrade is able to establish a jab from the outside, Andrade is a southpaw, so it'll be a right jab. If he's able to establish that from the outside, and, kind of control the distance, then I don't really see Jack Culcay really having that much success. Now, for Jack Culcay to win this fight, he has to be very sporadic, He has to kind of be an ambush fighter, He'll have to linger around on the outside, far away enough to avoid that jab. And then he'll have to kind of jump in the middle of combinations, like when Andrade throws a shot from the outside. Jack Culcay will have to get close. and will have to wind up on those hooks and really try and attack the body, because attacking the body to slow down the faster opponent is a wise tactic in my opinion, because clearly Demetrius Andrade has the faster hands here and the faster feet. So Jack Culcay is going to want to attack the body and try and take that speed away from him. And to be honest, I don't really know if he'll be able to do it, because I've never really seen anybody get on the inside and really take away Demetrius Andrade's speed. I've never seen anybody be able to do it, but he's never really fought anyone like Jack Culcay before, so you never know. Now, I think about previous opponents that Demetrius Andrade has fought. He's fought guys like Brian Rose. Now, I know that Brian Rose, not really a great fighter. He's a tough, borderline journeyman here in the UK. Well, when at the time that he fought Demetrius Andrade, he wasn't, because he'd only had one defeat then, but if you look at Brian Rose since then, he's been knocked out 3 times, and he even got stopped in the first round against Carson Jones. So, he's not really a commendable victory, to be honest. I certainly would pick someone like Jack Culcay over this guy, but you never know, because I think that Demetrius Andrade, I think he has improved since then, despite being a little bit inactive. In the Willie Nelson fight, he showed me a lot of improvements, in my opinion, because one thing that I was very impressed with Demetrius Andrade, and it's something that not a lot of tall fighters know how to do. I mean, very few of them, like Tyson Fury, for example, know how to do this. Now, he basically got on the inside and bent at the waist, and he was able to just slip punches inside and ride with punches, and he was very, very effective doing it. It's something that I didn't really see much of from looking at Demetrius Andrade's earlier fights, but in his last couple of fights, like the last fight against Nelson, he looks so much better to me. I think his timing is really on point, and I think it's just going to be so difficult for Culcay. I mean, even if Culcay is able to get close, even if he is able to avoid the punches from the outside and avoid the long arms of Andrade and then get inside with some sporadic attacks, even if he's able to do that, who's to say that Andrade isn't going to be able to stand in the pocket with him and shorten his punches and have the better of the action? You never know. I mean, Demetrius Andrade, at least in his last fight, showed me that he can do that. He showed me that he's a little bit complex. And I just think that he is at the top of his game right now. I mean, Demetrius Andrade right now is looking better than he ever has before. So, I think that this fight, even though the fight's taking place in Germany and Jack Culcay's promoters are based in Germany, he promotes with the Sauerlands, for those of you who don't know. I just don't really see that being much of an advantage. I just, to be perfectly honest, I think that Jack Culcay, he's going to have to work incredibly hard in this fight to get any real offense going, because Demetrius Andrade is just so difficult, so awkward. He's so tall, he's got such fast hands, very good stamina. I mean, in the fight against Willie Nelson, Demetrius Andrade was firing on all cylinders in the 12th round. After a very hard, very long fight, he still had the energy to go for the knockout and get the knockout in the 12th round. So Demetrius Andrade is a very, very good athlete. Okay, he's a very, very good boxer, and he's at the top of his game right now. And to be perfectly honest, I'm struggling to see how Jack Culcay can really find a legitimate way to win this fight. I really am. So I'm going to go with Demetrius Andrade on points. I don't think that he's going to dominate the fight. I think there will be certain spots in the fight where Jack Culcay does surprise him at times, because like I said, Jack Culcay is a little bit sporadic. He is a lot less robotic than a lot of fighters you see that fight that kind of style, because he does bend at the waist at times, he does move his head, and he is a little bit herky-jerky in there, and it can be a little bit difficult to find your timing against a fighter like that. But I just think that Demetrius Andrade's height, his reach, his hand speed and his foot speed, and the superior stamina, in my opinion, will carry Demetrius Andrade to a victory. I think it's likely going to be a points victory. Obviously, I'm not 100% confident on that. Some people will probably say, well, with the fight being in Germany and with Jack Culcay being promoted by the Sauerlands, then perhaps he'll get the nod if the fight's close. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, the officials for this fight are likely going to be appointed by the WBA. I don't think that the WBA will have any kind of favoritism here, and I don't think there'll be really an issue with the decision, to be honest, because in at least in recent years, decisions in Germany have been pretty fair. Let's be honest, guys. So yeah, I think that the smart money here, in my opinion, is for Demetrius Andrade to win this fight. I think that that's what's likely going to happen because, like I said, I just think that when I break this fight down and I think of who has the advantages over the other, I think that Demetrius Andrade, in my opinion, has too many advantages in this fight. Like I said, he has the longer arms. He's faster. He's taller. He moves better, in my opinion, on his feet. He's a southpaw, a little bit more complex. And Jack Culcay, as much as I like Jack Culcay, he's a fighter I've watched many times. He's exciting, and I do rate him as a fighter. And I do certainly think that he is an interesting fighter in this 154-pound division. There are a lot of fighters that, in my opinion, Jack Culcay could really give a good fight to. I wouldn't know who to pick in a fight against him and Erislandy Lara. Put it this way, if Erislandy Lara was going over to Germany to fight Jack Culcay instead of Demetrius Andrade, I would probably pick Jack Culcay. I think that's a fight that he could win stylistically. I've never seen Erislandy Lara really control a fighter like Jack Culcay. I've seen Erislandy Lara have a lot of problems with just basic pressure fighters, and I haven't seen Culcay or Andrade have problems with basic pressure fighters like that. I haven't seen them get forced on the back foot and trapped against the ropes and made to fall all over the place around. I've never seen that with those guys. So, if it was Erislandy Lara going over to Germany to fight Culcay, I think the smart money would be on Culcay. And just like the same thing, if Andrade was fighting Lara, I would probably, at this stage at least, I would probably favour Andrade in that fight. But let me know what you guys think anyway. I'm gonna go with Demetrius Andrade to beat Culcay, but it's a good fight. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching.